Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying Nerd News. It's being brought to you by Cloud9 Comics. And I gotta tell you, what I've seen and the things that I've seen that they've got, they are putting up some amazing stuff here lately. A whole slew of toys is about to go up. Some new CGC comics. There's gonna be so much stuff to check out. You should check them out if you're looking to fill those holes in your collection, or if you're just looking to buy some cool CGC 9/8 stuff. Doesn't matter. Check them out. Cloud9 Comics. The phone number, if you need to get a hold of them, is 314-691-2864. And if you can't get a hold of them that way, you can always hit them up with the emails at cloud9comicsandmore@gmail.com. That's Cloud9 Comics.
Thank you for tuning in to Entertain the Geeky, your source for nerd news.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jason here with your news for the week. So I promised in our last episode, we did our big Comic-Con thing. I promised in the last episode we were going to talk about some comic news. So that's what we're going to do this week. So I want to start out and I want to talk about Dark Knight's Metal. We are literally less than a week away at this point from Dark Knight's Metal number 1. Which, will be reuniting Scott Snyder with artist Greg Capullo. This is said to be kind of a crisis of sorts and the culmination of everything they had started with their New 52 Batman run. And if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. There was definitely some slow moments in the story as it progressed. But it really was overall a very, very good Batman run and worthy of rereading. So the big thing with Dark Knight's Metal is Nth Metal, or the 9th Metal. So we've had a couple of one-shots, Dark Days the Forge and Dark Knights the Casting, or Dark Days the Casting, I'm sorry. And those have kind of given us a little bit of background on the story to come. We've seen Hawkman, kind of narrating a story through a journal that he wrote about his discoveries along the way about what the 9th or Nth Metal is, how his story didn't begin in Egypt with Khufu. It began, a lot further before that with the tribe of the Hawk. And there's a couple other tribes that they've mentioned, and we'll get into that in a minute. But definitely these one-shots have left us with a kind of a glimpse into what this story will become, and a lot of questions that hopefully these 6 issues spanning from now, 6 issues and tie-ins and one-shots, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff about it that will last from now, I think, until February of next year. So we definitely have a lot of story to come. We have a lot of questions that need to get answered. I'd like to take a minute to talk about a few of the questions that have been posed by these one-shots. As fans, you probably remember Plastic Man. He was an old Justice League member. He's basically like DC's version of Mr. Fantastic. He was real stretchy. But he definitely was not the intelligent, scientist that Reed Richards is. He was pretty much just a crazy guy who got these powers, and they kind of changed his mind about who he was going to be and who he wanted to be and the mark he wanted to leave on, on the world. And he became a superhero. And, all throughout the New 52's run, I think we saw Plastic Man one time. There was a Justice League of America. I think it was either the prelude to Justice League of America or Justice League of America #1. I'm not sure on that. But he appeared on like a screen because Amanda Waller was looking to recruit people for her own Justice League. So you kind of saw him on a little computer screen that she happened to be looking at that had a bunch of other people on it as well. Some that ended up forming what we knew as the Justice League of America at the time. And that's all we saw of him. He was absent for the rest of New 52 for its run. And I don't know if that was inevitably that was probably because they just didn't have anything to do with him. They didn't know how to treat him or where to put him. But Scott Snyder definitely took note of that and has kind of retconned this idea that because we haven't seen him for so long, he's actually been captive, been a captive of the Batman, because according to the Batman, he's very dangerous. Now, how Plastic Man is dangerous is up in the air. I'm not really sure, where that comes from. I mean, he is kind of a psychotic dude, but he changed his ways after, becoming a superhero and getting these powers and things like that. So they contained him, some place that Batman has, another cave or another, hideout. He's contained him, and he's going to be coming back. Batman even goes so far as to comment that I didn't want to have to do this, but we're going to have to rely on someone else. And then they kind of show you the reveal that there's this little cell with the Plastic Man color scheme on it and the little, gold diamond in the middle, if you remember his costume. That was kind of how the midsection of it looked. So again, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but that's definitely a big question, how Plastic Man fits into this whole nth metal story. The Dark Days, the casting one shot kind of went into some interesting territory too, with the reveal of a dagger that what looks like one of the wizards, maybe the Shazam wizards, hands over a dagger that has the telltale symbol for Shazam, the little lightning bolt. So obviously Shazam, maybe even characters like Black Adam, Osiris, some of the others fit into this is mind-blowing. I don't understand at all what that has to do with this, unless the wizards were the first people to, work the ninth metal or understand what it was. But the one shot definitely doesn't imply that. It implies that the only people who truly understand it are the Hawks. So, Hawkman and Hawkwoman and others of their tribe of the Hawk are the only ones that really understand the metal and really understand how to work it and use it and what its purpose is. And Hawkman's kind of going on this journey to try to help himself understand more about it, because he feels that there's more to the story, because a lot of the memory of him protecting the world before his ancient Egypt time is lost to him still, which is why up until this point we've never heard of it. So the tribes are another thing that's kind of come up, and I've mentioned a couple times. I said we'd get into it. We definitely see symbolism through Hawkman's kind of journal narration flashback thing that he's got going on, that there is 3 symbols represented: the bear, a wolf, and I think a hawk, some kind of bird. And we don't really understand what this means. We don't really understand what the significance of this is within the history of the Hawk characters or the metals that appear to be protecting us from some great evil. So it's caveman style drawings that he finds. So this obviously dates back to early prehistory for Earth. And, there's implications in that as well. Maybe we'll have, some of the immortal characters play a part of it. I think we actually see Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, he was in Dark Days, the casting. So Ra's al Ghul, who's, uses the Lazarus Pit to live forever, has a small cameo in the little, I think it was in the Hawk flashback that was going on. Regardless, he has a kind of a little spot in there. And then you think about other immortal beings in the DC universe, like Vandal Savage. Does he have a part in it? Does he have a part to play in this whole grand scheme of things? And if you haven't read the New 52 Batman run, I'm going to get into a little bit of a spoilery territory thing here. So you've been warned. But there's definitely, in the last Joker story they did called Endgame, we understood this liquid that Joker found beneath the Batcave, deep beneath the Batcave, called Dionysium, was the key to some of these immortal guys' longevity, right? So Vandal Savage, Ra's al Ghul. Apparently these forms, the way they've used it, have been crude and have kind of warped what it was intended to be. But Dionysium is derived apparently from the ninth metal. So it has the power to heal. It has the power to keep people who use it immortal, bring the dead back to life. So it's definitely a kind of a big open plot point that they left at the end of that. They used it as a proponent to bring the Joker back to life and Batman back to life after they basically beat each other to death beneath the cave. So moving on, there's some other things about a couple of these one-shots that have been kind of intriguing. Joker, Batman locking Joker in the Batcave. Speaking of Joker, he's got what appears to be the Joker from Endgame. And the reason I word it that way is because we recently found out that the Joker's actually 3 different individuals who are all Jokers, which is confusing enough as it is. Hopefully Snyder, who is the one who kind of introduced this element into the comics, will clear that up with this story. But he appears to have the one from Endgame, so the one that is immortal or used the Dionysium to come back to life, to help him solve this puzzle, which doesn't, I know it sounds weird and crazy, but the Joker definitely has an intelligence. It's just always kind of covered up by the psychosis that you experience out of the man, as one of the probably the greatest Batman villain, in my opinion. So that's an interesting idea that the Batman needs the Joker because he doesn't fully understand what is coming and what this all means. So obviously there's, a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that we still have very unanswered about all of what this is. And I would imagine that even if it gives us any answers at all, I would imagine the number one that comes out next Wednesday will probably just raise more questions. I mean, they've got 6 issues of this. They've got one-shots. They've got tie-ins. So strap in. I don't think I have... If you've been listening to the show, as I've been doing, and I don't think I have to tell you that I'm a Batman fan. And if you're new to the show, hey, I'm a Batman fan. My name's Jason. But I am definitely going to be following it with great interest. I'm very excited to see how this arc that Snyder wrote kind of fully comes to a conclusion. I'm very excited to see what he does. In other, comic book news, Marvel Legacy is being shown in previews right now. We're starting to get some of the Generations titles that are kind of like a weird bridge between, some of the things that are happening now and some of the things that will be happening when Marvel Legacy comes about. So I definitely, I would like to talk about what we know about Marvel Legacy, and maybe get into some things, that might happen, or some things that we would really, enjoy about what this could be. So we'll start with some things, that are just kind of exciting to me. Avengers 1 million BC, I think it is. So I know that sounds strange, but what we're about to have with this story is a kind of a prehistoric Avengers team, which could be great. I'm not really going to rule anything out at this point because I have no frame of reference for, an Avengers team before the Captain America-led Avengers team. Other than, I guess the Howling Commandos, whether or not you count that in there as a superhero team. So yeah, there's it's going to be a prehistoric tale of, the different Avengers and being presented in this way. I think we're going to have Hulk and there's definitely some interesting elements that I think are to be explored with a caveman type Avengers story. And I really, that's all I can say. I really just have very little to go on and very little expectation other than my own curiosity. But other things, there's we're wrapping up Secret Empires. So what's coming next as far as events go? I mean, we're returning all the titles to their legacy numbering. We've set up some very interesting things as we've gone along with various of the Avengers books and Secret Empire and, Spider-Man and then the new Spider-Man story that's going on. Thor getting, Jane as Thor getting closer to the cancer, destroying her. a new Thor picking up the ultimate Thor's hammer in the form of Volstagg. What are all these things leading to? I have, I can only speculate at this point, but there's got to be some kind of, legacy event that they're planning around this whole thing, I guess is probably the best way to say it. And I know that gets some people, that makes some people cringe out there, the thought of a Marvel event having to buy literally every book that's sitting on the shelf because they all are part of the event and they all are important and everyone has to read everything. And if you're a goofy collector like me, I am a victim of that as well. I do have to read everything. I can't miss a part of it. So, maybe we'll see this all kind of building to something besides just renumbering all the things. Who knows? You never really know what to expect when something big is coming. So they're also, Marvel's also thinking about bringing back they're not thinking about, they're very much doing, bringing back some things from the past. One of the big ones that we've been hearing about is Marvel 2-in-1. And if you don't, if you're unfamiliar, Marvel 2-in-1 was a series from, the 60s, I think, 60s, 70s era. And it was just a team-up book. Mostly it had to do with Johnny Storm and Thing and various other characters that would team up with them. And they would do, 2 kind of little short stories in there. So it was an interesting kind of concept that really helped them, develop some of these characters a little more and introduce some characters that have become, big fan favorite type characters. So it's interesting to see that old, incarnation of Marvel as a creative force come back to the comic world. I'm personally very excited to see what these kind of team up things can bring us. Maybe we'll see them return to a kind of, a time when we were introducing characters on a regular basis, when we were trying new things. Not all things are going to be new. What we've heard about Spider-Man is not. I don't know. I'm torn on this because I really enjoy Spider-Man. I'm a very big fan of Miles and Peter and kind of the interactions that they have. And I'm a big fan of what's going on in Spider-Man now with Parker Industries, and Peter is experiencing a life that he never had or never thought he could have. And what we've heard about, Spider-Man and what they're going to do with him is they're going to kind of take all that away from him and take him back to the, Daily Bugle photographer that we remember, not necessarily doing that thing specifically, but take him back to that place, where he didn't know how to balance his life as Spider-Man with his life as Peter Parker. And it all just kind of feels like a giant step backwards to me because I feel like not only do we have Miles, who is a constantly entertaining character, and I really just love everything they do with him, and I can't wait to see where the Spider-Man story goes after just experiencing issue 1, a few weeks ago. But Peter has evolved so much as a character in these last, even in the last 5 years, and I hate to see them take a step backwards. Because what we've got out of it is, I don't know if you out there remember, but for a while we had Dick Grayson as Batman. And it provided us a very different take on Batman, a very interesting take that kind of was a more contemporary idea about who the character is and a more modern take on who this character is. And that's something I feel like Peter has finally stepped into. We've moved beyond the struggling Daily Bugle photographer and the guy who regrets everything. We've got a Peter who is confident and has a lot of tech and, his company, his scientific breakthroughs that he's making. And I really just don't understand why we're deciding that that's not the best direction to take the character in anymore. And I guess maybe with the legacy thing, it's of a return to form for them. But I'm torn on whether or not it's going to be interesting or good. Because I've really liked what they've been doing with the character lately. So other news, well, this isn't really news. This is just something that they've kind of implied with the Marvel Generations Hulk one-shot, is that Hulk is maybe going to be back. I mean, not, maybe not Banner Hulk, but Hulk is going to be back. Obviously, people want to see Banner. I like Banner, but I really like Amadeus Cho as well, and I think it's too soon to take what Incredible Hulk is away from him as a character, because I feel like they're still finding new ways to tell Hulk stories with him. But some form of Hulk, could be back. I mean, we hope that there's a chance, that we could get him back, and I'm excited about that. There's the other Marvel Generations one-shots that have not come out yet. I mean, we'll see a couple more of them, I think, come out next week. But I don't know. A lot of these things I'm very torn on. I really just want everything to be good. I want to, keep enjoying what Marvel is doing. But some of these things are just such drastic things. And I'm a little worried. I'm going to be honest. But obviously, we haven't seen the end of Secret Empire yet, so we don't know what the fate of Captain America is. That's definitely one that is still, kind of up in the air. I hope that we're going to have a Captain America afterwards. We've been told that, Falcon is going to be back, so, we won't have Sam Wilson wielding a Captain America shield anymore. So who's going to be Captain America? Are we going to have, Steve back? Are we going to have a version of Steve back? It's all kind of up in the air, and I really, really, really hope that Steve comes back, because I think that the world, the internet, everybody reacted kind of poorly to the Secret Empire thing. Rewriting Cap's history to make him a part of Hydra. Everyone, shouted that Cap is a Nazi, and I keep stressing Hydra, they're not Nazis. They used the Nazi war machine in order to further their own scientific research. They've used, other bad people throughout history in the pursuit of that goal. So I think we really need to see return to form for Captain America, the Patriot. Not necessarily the American Patriot, but I think we need the moral leader that Captain America represents if we're gonna start changing things up, and some things might change. One of the things that I kind of talked about briefly, but I think is going to change, is I think that the whole Thor dynamic is going to change. If you haven't been reading, Jane Foster is the mighty Thor right now. She carries Mjolnir, and she's dying of cancer. And there's definitely a finality to what's happening, and I definitely think that we are about to change up the status quo of Thor again. Now, whether that means Thor gets the hammer back, or we start reading more about the War Thor, which is Volstagg. We talked about that in an earlier episode. It's kind of all up in the air. I'm tentatively excited about what Marvel is doing, and I will reserve most of my judgments until I can get my hands on some of these books. And I suggest you do the same. If anything that I've said, rocked you, and you feel like, oh no, what's going to happen? Give it a chance. Let it be its own proof. And with that, I think we're gonna close out this episode. Some news that just came across just a couple hours ago today. Avengers 4 has started filming. 4 weeks ago, they finished filming Avengers. So we're Avengers 3. So we are jumping right back into it with Avengers 4. And I mean, I kind of expected that. They were always talking about how these movies were going to be filmed simultaneously. But I gotta say, man, that's gotta put a hurt on the people involved. I mean, you spend however long making a film, and then you finally are done, and you can have some rest and relaxation, and boom, you got to go right back in and make another film. So, what we know about Avengers Infinity War really has still given us no context as to what the sequel will be. We do know everyone's going to be returning, maybe some new characters. We might end up seeing Captain Marvel make an appearance in Avengers 4. Definitely the Wasp, I think, is going to make her appearance in Avengers 4. And that'll be, the end of the Phase 3 movies. I mean, and then we'll move forward into Phase 4 and see where that takes us. It's definitely been a ride, and I'll tell you, I'm very much looking forward to continuing and seeing what else they've got up their sleeves. So that's going to bring us to the end. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'm very appreciative that you're digging what I'm doing. If you have any specific requests, hit us up on the Facebook page at facebook.com/entertainthegeeky. You can check out entertainthegeeky.com for all the links to the various episodes that Roger and Chris are doing, and mine as well. But yeah, just thanks for tuning in, and thanks for enjoying everything nerdy and listening to me spout on about it for 20 minutes or so. You guys take it easy out there and stay geeky.